I stood there in the pouring rainwater, mixing with the tears streaming down my face, as the sound of mocking laughter and champagne glasses clinking echoed from the house behind me. My mother had just thrown a spare house key at my face, the metal cutting into my cheek before clattering to the wet pavement. The words still rang in my ears like a death sentence. You are living a meaningless, purposeless life. You are the disappointment of the Lane name. Get out. This is not a home for failures. The engagement party continued inside my sister Natalie's perfect celebration, unmarred by the family disgrace they had just publicly ejected. I touched my stinging cheek, feeling the warm trickle of blood mixing with rainwater. In that moment, standing outside the Westport mansion I had once called home, something inside me shattered completely. But from those broken pieces, something else began to form. Something harder. Something fiercer. If you have ever been thrown away by the people who were supposed to love you most, if you have ever been told you are worthless by those who should have seen your worth, then you know this moment. The moment when pain transforms into power. Stay with me, because this story is about to take a turn that no one, especially not my family, saw coming. Before we continue, if you believe in second chances and the power of rising from rock bottom, hit that like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me about a time someone underestimated you. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. My name is Harper Lane, and I grew up in Westport, Connecticut, in a world of country clubs, yacht parties, and old money that whispered rather than shouted. My father, James Lane, was different from the rest. While other wealthy parents shipped their kids off to boarding schools and nannies, Dad spent hours with me in his study teaching me about technology, coding, and the future he believed in. He was a quiet visionary in a world of loud traditionalists, and I was his eager student. I remember being 8 years old, sitting on his lap while he showed me my first lines of code. "Harper," he said, his voice warm with excitement, "this is magic. Real magic. You can create entire worlds with just your mind and these little symbols. Most people in Westport will never understand that. But you will." And I did. I fell in love with coding the way other girls my age fell in love with horses or ballet. While my younger sister Natalie practiced her pageant wave and learned which fork to use at formal dinners, I was building websites and learning programming languages. Dad encouraged every bit of it. He bought me books, enrolled me in online courses, and most importantly, he believed in me. My mother, Victoria Lane, tolerated this phase, as she called it, assuming I would eventually grow out of my tomboyish interests and become a proper society lady like Natalie. But there was always tension there, a fundamental disappointment in her eyes when she looked at me. I was not the daughter she wanted. I was not graceful, socially polished, or interested in the things that mattered in her world. Everything changed when I was 15. Dad died suddenly of a heart attack in his study, slumped over his desk with coding books scattered around him. I found him there, his hand still resting on the mouse, his last project still glowing on the screen. The grief was suffocating, but losing Dad meant more than losing a parent. It meant losing my only advocate, my only shield against the world that never quite accepted me. After the funeral, the dynamics in our house shifted like tectonic plates, rearranging themselves. Mother threw herself into shaping Natalie into the perfect debutante, the daughter who would restore the Lane name to its proper glory. I became an afterthought, a reminder of the husband she had lost and the daughter who had never quite measured up. I tried to honor Dad's memory by pursuing computer science at college. I worked 2 part-time jobs to pay for expenses my mother deemed frivolous, including my textbooks and equipment. I barely slept, surviving on coffee and determination, but I maintained a 3.9 gigapascals. When I showed Mother my Dean's List certificate, she glanced at it and said, "That is nice, dear. Natalie just got invited to the governor's gala. Now that is an achievement." Every small victory I earned was diminished. Every accomplishment was compared to Natalie's social successes and found wanting. I kept hoping that one day Mother would see me, really see me the way Dad had. I kept trying to prove I was worth her love and approval. After graduation, I moved back home temporarily while I figured out my next steps. Mother made it clear this was a charity arrangement. I paid rent, helped with household expenses from my entry-level tech job, and tried to stay out of the way. Natalie, meanwhile, had landed a wealthy boyfriend named Austin Mitchell, a trust fund trader who played at venture capitalism with his family's money. I watched as Mother poured resources into Natalie's life. Designer clothes, a luxury car, membership fees at exclusive clubs. When I asked if she could help me with a security deposit for my own apartment, she said I needed to learn to manage my money better and that she had already invested enough in my education. The double standard was crushing, but I told myself it would get better. I told myself that once I proved myself in the tech world, once I built something significant, Mother would finally respect me. I told myself a lot of lies to make the pain bearable. Then came the engagement party. Natalie and Austin's relationship had progressed quickly, and Mother was over the moon. She spared no expense for the engagement celebration, transforming our Westport home into something out of a fairy tale. Crystal chandeliers, imported flowers, a string quartet, champagne fountains, and 200 of Connecticut's finest families in attendance. I had helped pay for some of it. Mother had asked me for a loan just weeks before claiming she was having temporary cash flow issues with the estate. I gave her $8,000, nearly all my savings, because she was my mother, and I wanted to help. I wanted to be part of something to contribute to matter. The night of the party, I arrived in my best dress, which I knew was not designer but was clean and appropriate. I had even gotten my hair done at a salon, spending money I could not really afford because I wanted to look nice to fit in to make Mother proud for once. The party was beautiful. Natalie looked radiant in a cream silk gown, her engagement ring catching the light like a small sun on her finger. Austin stood beside her, confident and charming, working the room like the practiced socialite he was. Mother floated through the crowd, accepting congratulations and praise for her perfect daughter's perfect match. I stood on the edges, smiling, trying to be happy for my sister, despite the familiar ache of being overlooked. Several family friends asked what I was doing with my life. When I told them about my tech job and my dreams of starting my own company, they nodded politely with glazed eyes before changing the subject or excusing themselves. Then Mother called for everyone's attention. The crowd quieted, champagne glasses raised expectantly. She stood at the center of the room, regal and composed, with Natalie and Austin beside her. I have been blessed with 2 daughters, Mother began, her voice carrying easily through the silent room. But only one of them has understood what it means to honor the Lane family name. My stomach dropped. Natalie has always been everything a mother could hope for. Graceful, accomplished, and now engaged to a wonderful man from an excellent family. She has never wasted a day of her life or squandered the opportunities given to her. The emphasis on never wasted hit me like a physical blow. As for my other daughter, she continued, and I felt every eye in the room turn toward me. Harper is here tonight as well. Harper has chosen a different path. A path of isolation, of stubbornness, of refusing to be part of this family's legacy. My face burned. People were staring, some with pity, others with barely concealed disdain. Some children understand their duty. Others are disappointments. The word hung in the air like poison. Natalie looked down, a small smile playing at her lips. Austin squeezed her hand, and Mother looked directly at me with cold, hard eyes that held no love, no warmth, no recognition of our bond. After the toast, I tried to slip away quietly, but Mother found me in the hallway. She held a manila envelope in one hand and a set of keys in the other. "We need to talk," she said, her voice low and sharp. "My study. Now." I followed her, my heart pounding. Maybe this was it. Maybe she was going to apologize for the public humiliation. Maybe she would finally acknowledge how much I had contributed, how hard I had tried. Instead, she sat behind Dad's old desk, the one I had not been allowed to touch since he died, and slid papers across to me. Legal documents. I scanned them quickly, my hands shaking. "I am transferring full ownership of this house to Natalie," Mother said calmly. "She and Austin will need it. They are starting a family, building a future. You, on the other hand, have made it clear you want nothing to do with the Lane legacy." "But Dad left this house to both of us," I whispered. "The will said both daughters. The will said what I needed it to say, and now circumstances have changed. Natalie needs this house. You do not. You have your computers and your little job. That should be enough for someone with your ambitions." "My ambitions? I built a 3.9 gigapascals while working 2 jobs. I am trying to start a company that could actually help people, that could change the world the way Dad believed technology could. Your father," Mother said coldly, "wasted too much time on fantasies. I will not make the same mistake with family resources." "The $8,000 I gave you," I said, my voice breaking. "That was for Natalie's party, was it not? You told me it was temporary. Consider it rent for all the years you lived here after college. I think I have been more than generous." Something inside me snapped. All the years of trying, of hoping, of convincing myself that if I just worked hard enough or achieved enough or proved myself worthy enough, she would love me. It was all a lie. She had never loved me. She had never seen me. I was not a daughter to her. I was a disappointment, an inconvenience, a failure that needed to be managed and eventually discarded. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the hardwood floor. "Fine. If that is what you want, then fine." "Good," Mother said. "I am glad you are being reasonable about this. Now there is one more thing. She opened her desk drawer and pulled out a copy of an old document, some paperwork that had my name on it related to the house. In one swift, deliberate motion, she tore it in half, then in quarters, letting the pieces fall to the desk like confetti. You are no longer part of this estate's future, she said. And honestly, Harper, you were never really part of this family's heart. I walked out of that study for the last time. I made it to the foyer before Natalie intercepted me, her face a mask of false concern. Harper, she said, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. I know Mother is hard on you, but you have to admit she has a point. I mean, you have to know your place in all this, right? Not everyone can be successful. Someone has to be the cautionary tale. Behind her, I could see Austin smirking, and several party guests had gathered to watch the drama unfold. The humiliation was total, public, and deliberate. I turned to look at all of them. My mother standing in the study doorway with her arms crossed. My sister with her perfect hair and her perfect dress and her perfect life built on taking what should have been shared. The guests who had known me since childhood now watching my downfall like it was entertainment. You will all pay for this, I said quietly, my voice steady despite the tears threatening to spill. Not a threat. Just a fact. You will regret what you have done here tonight. Oh, Harper, Natalie laughed. Always so dramatic. Why do you not just accept reality? Some people are winners and some people are you. The guests laughed. Actual laughter. Like my pain was a joke, like my grief was comedy, like the destruction of my last shred of hope was worthy of applause. Mother stepped forward and threw something at me. It hit my face before I could react, and I heard it clatter to the marble floor. The spare key to the house. The key I had carried since I was a teenager, a symbol that this was my home, that I belonged here. This is not a home for failures, Mother said, her voice ringing through the foyer. Get out. Get out of my house. The guests actually started clapping. Slow, mocking applause that grew louder as I stood there bleeding from the key's impact, tears finally spilling down my cheeks. I bent down, picked up the key, and walked out. Behind me, the party resumed as if nothing had happened. The music started again. Glasses clinked. Laughter bubbled up. I was already forgotten. Outside, the rain had started, a cold November downpour that soaked through my dress within seconds. I stood there in the driveway, looking back at the house, lit up like a celebration, and I let myself break down completely. I screamed. I sobbed. I fell to my knees on the wet pavement and let the grief and rage pour out of me. When I finally stopped crying, I was empty, hollowed out. But in that emptiness, I found something unexpected. Clarity. I drove through the rain with no destination in mind, just away, always away. I ended up at an all-night diner called Joe's Place, a rundown spot near the highway where I used to work during college to help pay my tuition. I had not been back in years, but my body remembered the way. Joe himself was still there working the night shift like he always had. He was in his 60s, now gray-haired and round-bellied, with kind eyes that had seen too much hardship to judge anyone else's. Harper Lane, he said when I walked in, soaked and shivering. He took one look at my face and poured coffee without asking. What happened to you, kid? I told him everything. The party, the will, the key, the laughter. He listened without interrupting, refilling my coffee twice while I talked. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Your dad used to come in here sometimes. Did you know that? Late at night when he could not sleep. He would sit right where you are sitting now and talk about you. Never about your sister, never about your mother. Just you. He said you were going to change the world someday. He said you had something special, something that could not be taught or bought. I started crying again, and Joe pushed a napkin across the counter. So here is what you are going to do, he said firmly. You are going to stop crying. You are going to finish this coffee. And then you are going to prove every single one of those people wrong. Not because they deserve your energy, but because your dad was right about you. And because you deserve to see what you are really capable of when you stop trying to make people love you and start loving yourself. I looked up at him, this kind stranger who had shown me more compassion in 5 minutes than my own mother had in years. Do you really think I can do it? Kid Joe said, I have seen you work 3 double shifts while studying for finals and never complain once. I have seen you fix my broken cash register with a paperclip and a prayer. You have got something in you that those country club folks will never understand. Now stop doubting yourself and go be great. I left Joe's diner at 2 a.m. with a new resolve. I drove to my small apartment, packed everything I owned into my car in 3 trips, and left a note terminating my lease. I loaded up my computer, my servers, and the old coding trophy Dad had given me when I won a regional competition at 16. Everything else could stay. By sunrise, I was on the highway heading to New York City. I had less than $2,000 to my name after Mother had taken everything else, but I had something more valuable. I had nothing left to lose. I found an apartment in Brooklyn that made my old place look like a palace. It was a fourth-floor walk-up with a bathroom the size of a closet, a kitchenette that was generous in name only, and windows that overlooked a brick wall. The walls were thin enough to hear my neighbors' entire lives, and something was always dripping or creaking or breaking. But it was mine. I paid the deposit, and first month's rent in cash, moved my equipment in, and got to work. GreenPath Technologies had been my dream project for 2 years, an app that would revolutionize how grocery stores manage their supply chains, cutting food waste by predicting demand patterns using AI and machine learning. Dad had helped me brainstorm the initial concept before he died. It was his last gift to me, and I was going to make it work. For 3 months, I barely slept. I lived on instant ramen and black coffee, coding 18-hour days until my eyes burned and my fingers cramped. The apartment was always cold because I kept the heat off to save money, so I worked in layers of sweaters and blankets, my breath sometimes visible in the winter air. I faced problems I had never encountered in school. The algorithms would not scale properly. The database architecture kept crashing under load. The user interface was clunky and unintuitive. Every solution created 3 new problems. But I kept going. When I wanted to give up, when I was tempted to call Mother and beg to come home, I would remember the sound of that key hitting my face. I would remember Natalie's laugh and the guests' applause and Mother's cold eyes telling me I was not enough. Then one night at 3 in the morning, during a particularly brutal debugging session, my power went out. The entire building lost electricity, and I watched in horror as my computer screen went black. I had not saved in 30 minutes. I had just been making breakthrough progress on the scaling issue. I sat there in the dark, and for the first time since leaving Westport, I let myself think about quitting. I was so tired, so broke, so alone. What was the point of all this suffering if I was just going to fail anyway? But then my backup generator kicked in, the one I had bought at a pawn shop specifically for emergencies like this. The computer hummed back to life, and when I checked, my autosave had caught everything. I had not lost a single line of code. It felt like a sign. Like Dad was watching over me, making sure I did not give up. That night I realized I needed help. I was good at the core technology, but I was not good at everything. I needed someone who understood the things I did, not someone who could fill in the gaps in my knowledge. I found Maya Kim through a coding forum where I had posted a question about database optimization. She had answered with a solution so elegant it took my breath away, but when I tried to implement it, I realized she had actually hacked into my GitHub repository to test it on my actual codebase first. I should have been angry. Instead, I was impressed. I tracked her down through the forum and sent her a direct message. "We need to talk." We met at a coffee shop in Queens. Maya was younger than I expected, maybe 24 or 25, with short purple-streaked hair and a leather jacket covered in tech company patches. She looked me up and down with sharp, assessing eyes. "So you are the one building the grocery app," she said without preamble. "Your code is decent, but your security is trash. I could have stolen your entire project in like 10 minutes. Instead, you fixed my database problem. Why? Because it was interesting. Because I was bored. Because your project is actually trying to solve a real problem instead of being another stupid social media clone." "I need a partner," I said. "Someone who can handle the back-end security and infrastructure while I focus on the algorithms and AI. I cannot pay you yet, but if this works, we split everything 50-50. Maya leaned back, studying me. "Most people I have worked with want to screw me over eventually. They promise partnerships and then cut me out when the money shows up. Why should I trust you?" "Because I just got screwed over by my own family," I said bluntly. "Because I know what it feels like to have people take credit for your work and treat you like you are disposable. I will not do that to someone else." Something shifted in Maya's expression. "What happened?" I told her the abbreviated version. The engagement party, the will, the key. She listened without judgment, nodding occasionally. When I finished, she stuck out her hand. "Okay, 50-50 equal partners, we build something that matters. But if you ever try to betray me, I will make sure your codebase gets accidentally released with so many vulnerabilities that every hacker in the world will use it as a playground." I shook her hand. "Fair enough." Maya moved into my apartment the next week, setting up her equipment in the tiny living room while I kept my workspace in the bedroom. The place was cramped and chaotic, but it worked. We fell into a rhythm trading off sleep shifts, so someone was always working, surviving on delivery food and pure determination. Maya had her own demons, her own reasons for wanting to prove something. She did not talk about her family much, but I gathered they had cut her off when she dropped out of MIT to work on independent projects. We were both running from something, both trying to build something that would prove we mattered. 8 months after I left Westport, we were ready. The app was polished, the backend was secure, and we had a demo that actually worked. But we had no money for marketing, no connections to potential clients, and no reputation in the industry. That is when Maya saw the announcement for the Manhattan Tech Expo. It cost $3,000 for a booth, which was money we absolutely did not have. We had maybe $800 between us after paying rent and buying equipment. "We have to do this," Maya said, staring at her laptop screen. "This is our shot. Every major player in the New York tech scene will be there. We cannot afford it. Then we make it work. We eat nothing but rice for a month. We cancel our internet and use coffee shop Wi-Fi. We do whatever it takes." She was right. This was our shot, maybe our only shot. We scraped together the money by selling everything we could spare. My car, which I had been holding on to for sentimental reasons. Maya's guitar, which she said she never played anymore, but I knew she loved. Furniture, clothes, books, anything that was not essential went on Craigslist. We registered for the expo at the last possible moment, and they stuck us in the worst location possible. Booth 247, tucked in the back corner behind the bathrooms in a spot where foot traffic went to die. The booths around us were other struggling startups with equally terrible locations, all of us, the rejects and underfunded dreamers. But we made it work. Maya built us a stunning demo display using budget materials and creative coding. I practiced my pitch 1,000 times until I could deliver it in my sleep. We made matching t-shirts with the GreenPath Technologies logo that Maya had designed. The day of the expo, I was terrified. The convention center was massive, filled with slick corporate booths, with professional staff, expensive displays, and catered refreshments. Companies like Google and Amazon had entire wings dedicated to their presentations. And then there was us in our corner with our folding table, our homemade banner, and our laptop running our demo on repeat. For the first 3 hours, barely anyone stopped by. People glanced at our booth and kept walking, drawn to the flashier displays up front. I tried not to lose hope, but it was hard watching everyone pass us by like we were invisible. Then a man in an expensive suit stopped, looked at our demo screen with actual interest, and said, "What is this?" I launched into my pitch, my voice stronger than I felt. GreenPath Technologies uses machine learning to predict grocery demand patterns, reducing food waste by up to 19% while increasing profit margins. We analyze everything from weather patterns to local events to social media trends to create the most accurate forecasting model on the market. 90%. That is a bold claim. Can you prove it? Maya jumped in, pulling up our testing data and walking him through our validation methodology. She spoke in rapid-fire technical language, explaining our algorithms and showing him the actual code that made it work. The man listened, asked increasingly technical questions, and seemed genuinely impressed. Then another person joined him, then another. Within minutes, we had a small crowd at our booth, all of them actually paying attention. That is when Robert Sterling showed up. He was the CEO of Fresh Tech Solutions, a major player in the grocery tech space, and he was exactly the kind of man I had grown up around in Westport. Expensive suit, perfect hair, and the kind of confidence that came from never being told no. He pushed his way to the front of our crowd and looked at our setup with barely concealed disdain. "So what makes you different from the 100 other supply chain apps out there?" He asked, his tone making it clear he expected no good answer. "We actually work," Maya said flatly. "And we reduce waste by margins you cannot touch." Sterling laughed. "You two girls built this. Where is the real tech team?" "The real tech team is standing in front of you," I said, keeping my voice level despite the anger burning in my chest. "Maya handles back-end architecture and security. I handle the machine learning algorithms and predictive modeling. Would you like to challenge our methodology, or are you just here to waste everyone's time?" The crowd that had gathered was watching, now interested in the confrontation. Sterling's face reddened. "Fine," he said. "Run your demo. Show me this miracle application." Maya pulled up a live simulation feeding in real data from a grocery chain that had given us permission to use their numbers for testing purposes. Within seconds, our app generated predictions for the next week's demand across multiple product categories. "That is cute," Sterling said. "But how do you know it is accurate?" Because we already ran this test 3 weeks ago with data from a month prior, I explained. We predicted what their demand would be for the past 3 weeks, and we can compare our predictions to what actually happened. I pulled up the comparison charts. Our predictions had been accurate within 3 to 5% across the board, far better than the industry standard of 10 to 15% variance. The crowd murmured appreciatively. Sterling frowned. Even if this works, he said, and I am not saying it does, what makes you think you can scale this? What happens when you are dealing with 1,000 stores instead of one test case? Maya grinned. Watch this. She pulled up our scalability tests, showing how the system handled increasing loads. We had stress tested it up to 10,000 simultaneous store locations, and the performance remained consistent. Sterling had no response. He stood there clearly trying to think of another criticism, another way to dismiss us. That is when Dr. Amelia Carter appeared. She was a legend in the tech world, a former MIT professor turned venture capital advisor, and she had been standing at the edge of our crowd for the past few minutes. Very impressive, she said, her voice cutting through the murmurs. What you two have built here is exactly what this industry needs. Practical, scalable, and environmentally conscious. Mr. Sterling, you should be taking notes instead of trying to tear them down. Sterling looked like he had been slapped. He muttered something about needing to check on his own booth and left quickly, his entourage following. Doctor. Carter stayed. She asked us detailed questions about our business model, our funding situation, and our long-term goals. When we admitted we were completely self-funded and basically broke, she nodded like she had expected that. There is someone you need to meet, she said. Follow me. We left Maya's roommate to watch our booth and followed Dr. Carter through the expo floor. She led us to a private meeting room where a man in his 40s sat working on a laptop. He looked up when we entered, his expression curious. Ethan Ross, Dr. Carter said, meet Harper Lane and Maya Kim. They have built something you are going to want to see. Ethan Ross was a name I knew. He was a serial entrepreneur who had built and sold 3 successful startups, and he was now focused on investing in early-stage companies. He was the kind of person who could change your life with one decision. We showed him our demo. He watched without interrupting, his face unreadable. When we finished, he closed his laptop and looked at us. $80,000 for 10% equity, he said. Non negociable. You have 30 seconds to decide. My heart stopped. $80,000 would change everything. It would let us quit our part-time jobs, hire help, scale properly. But 10% was a lot of equity to give up. I looked at Maya. She looked at me. We had a whole conversation in that glance, weighing options, calculating risks, considering alternatives. 25 seconds, Ethan said. Deal, I said. We accept. Ethan smiled for the first time. Smart move. I will have my lawyers draw up the papers. In the meantime, here is my card. Call me Monday morning. We have work to do. The next 6 months were a blur of growth and chaos. With Ethan's investment and guidance, we moved out of my cramped Brooklyn apartment and into a small office space in Manhattan. We hired 3 developers and a business manager. We filed patents for our core technology and trademarked the Green Path name. And we landed our first major client. Fresh Fields, a mid-sized grocery chain with 40 locations in the Northeast, agreed to a pilot program. They were skeptical, offering us only a month to prove ourselves and a contract that was barely profitable for us. But it was a chance, and we took it. The CEO, a man named Richard Barnes, had made his skepticism very public. At our first meeting, surrounded by his executive team, he had said, "If you two can really deliver 19% waste reduction like you claim, I will personally apologize in writing. But when you fail, you work for free for a year to make up for wasting my time." I had looked him straight in the eye and said, "We will not fail, and we will not work for free. We will deliver 30% reduction, and you will pay us triple the agreed rate." He had laughed and agreed clearly, thinking we had no chance. Maya and I put everything we had into that month. We customized the implementation for Fresh Fields, tweaking algorithms and training their staff. We worked around the clock, troubleshooting issues and optimizing performance. When the month ended and we presented the results, the boardroom went silent. We had delivered 32% waste reduction across their 40 stores, saving them an estimated $2.3 million in the first month alone. Richard Barnes stood up, slowly walked around the conference table to where I stood and extended his hand. "I was wrong," he said simply. "You are not just good. You are revolutionary." I want to expand this to all our locations immediately, and I will be recommending you to every CEO I know. The press picked up the story. Forbes ran a piece titled, "Two Women and a Breakthrough App Tech Crunch," called us the most exciting startup of the year, and suddenly everyone wanted a piece of GreenPath Technologies. We scaled fast, maybe too fast, but we managed to keep up with demand. More clients, more employees, more office space. Within a year, we had expanded to a team of 30 people, and were working with 15 grocery chains across the country. The money started rolling in. Real money, more than I had ever imagined. Maya and I took modest salaries at first, reinvesting everything back into the company. But eventually we started to see the fruits of our labor. I paid off my student loans in one payment. I bought Maya a new guitar to replace the one she had sold. I sent a check to Joe at the diner thanking him for the coffee and the advice that night. And then I started looking at real estate. Not because I needed a bigger place, but because I wanted to build something. I wanted to create the kind of home Dad would have loved, the kind of place that represented everything I had worked for. I found land in Darien, the town right next to Westport. Close enough that my family would eventually hear about it, far enough that I would never have to see them unless I chose to. The house took 8 months to build. I was involved in every decision, working with architects and contractors to create something that was both beautiful and sustainable. Floor-to-ceiling windows, solar panels, geothermal heating, rainwater collection systems. Every detail was chosen with purpose, every element reflecting my values. The house was more than a home. It was a statement. It was proof. On the day I moved in, I stood in the living room watching the sunset through those massive windows, and I allowed myself to feel proud. I had done this. Not my family's money, not anyone's connections, just my own work and my own vision. I had GreenPath Technologies install a sign at the entrance to my property. Not to show off, but to mark what I had built. To claim my space in a world that had tried to tell me I did not belong. 2 years after leaving Westport, Forbes estimated my net worth at $40 million. GreenPath had expanded internationally, and we were in talks with major chains in Europe and Asia. Maya and I were splitting CEO duties, with me focusing on product development and her handling operations. I was happy. For the first time in my adult life, I was genuinely happy. Not because of the money, though financial security was nice, but because I had built something meaningful. Because I had proved to myself that I was capable of more than anyone had believed. Then Natalie called. I almost did not answer when her name appeared on my screen. I had blocked my mother and had not spoken to my sister since the night of the engagement party. But curiosity got the better of me. "Harper," Natalie said when I answered, her voice strained. "We need to talk. Can I come see you?" "Why?" "Please, Harper. It is important. I am in trouble and I do not know who else to ask." Against my better judgment, I gave her my address. I told myself I was strong enough now to face her, that whatever she wanted could not hurt me anymore. She arrived the next day with Austin. I barely recognized her. The perfect hair was limp and unwashed. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by off-brand jeans and a wrinkled shirt. She looked like she had aged 10 years in two. Austin looked worse. He would not meet my eyes, shuffling his feet like a guilty child. I let them in, but did not offer them seats. I stood in my beautiful living room, arms crossed, waiting. "Harper," Natalie started, her voice shaking. "I do not know how to say this, so I am just going to be direct." Austin's fund collapsed. He invested in some ventures that turned out to be fraudulent, and we lost everything. The house is in foreclosure. We are broke. I am sorry to hear that, I said neutrally. But I am not sure why you are telling me this. "We need help," Austin said, finally speaking. "I heard about your company, about how successful you are. We thought maybe you could invest in a new venture or give us a loan to get back on our feet." "A loan," I repeated. "Like the $8,000 I gave Mother that I never saw again." Natalie flinched. "Harper, I know things ended badly between us. But we are family. You cannot just abandon us." "Family," I said, and something bitter rose in my throat. "Tell me, Natalie, when was I family to you? Was it when you laughed as Mother humiliated me at your party? Was it when you told me to know my place? Was it when you stood by and watched them throw me out of my own home?" "That was different," Natalie said weakly. "Mother was upset. You were always so difficult to deal with, and I just wanted my engagement party to be perfect." "And how did that work out for you? How is that perfect marriage and that perfect life?" Austin stepped forward. "Harper, I know I do not deserve your help. But we are desperate. We do not have anywhere else to turn. If you have any compassion at all." "Compassion?" I laughed and it came out harsh and cold. You want to talk about compassion? Where was your compassion when I was working 3 jobs to pay for school? Where was your compassion when I was eating ramen in a freezing apartment, pouring my soul into building something meaningful? You both thought I was worthless. You both treated me like garbage. And now that your easy life has fallen apart, now you want me to save you. Harper, please, Natalie was crying now. We made mistakes. You made mistakes. But I am still your sister. No, I said firmly. You stopped being my sister the night you chose to side with Mother instead of defending me. You stopped being my sister when you laughed at my pain. You do not get to claim that relationship now that it is convenient for you. What about Mother? Natalie said desperately. She is sick, Harper. She had a stroke 6 months ago. She is in a care facility and we cannot afford to keep her there much longer. If we lose the house, we will have nowhere to put her. The information hit me harder than I expected. Mother was sick. Part of me, the part that was still that little girl seeking approval, felt a twinge of guilt, but I pushed it down. I am sorry she is sick, I said. I would not wish that on anyone. But her illness does not erase what she did to me. It does not make the abuse okay. And it certainly does not obligate me to fix your financial problems. You are heartless, Austin said, anger replacing his earlier pleading. We came here humbling ourselves, asking for help, and you are throwing it back in our faces. You are as cold as everyone said you were. I am protecting myself, I corrected him. I am choosing not to let people who hurt me continue to hurt me just because they are in trouble. That is not heartless. That is self-preservation. Natalie was sobbing now. Harper, I know I was awful to you. I know I do not deserve your help. But please, please do not do this. We are going to lose everything. I looked at my sister, really looked at her, and I felt nothing. No satisfaction in her suffering, but no desire to help either. She had made her choices. She had chosen comfort over integrity, status over kindness, cruelty over compassion. Now she was facing the consequences. I think you should leave, I said quietly. I have work to do. Harper, please. Natalie reached for me, but I stepped back. Do not touch me. Do not call me. Do not contact me again. You are not part of my life anymore. You gave up that right when you decided I was not worth defending. You are a monster, Austin spat. Your own mother is suffering and you do not even care. My mother threw a key at my face and told me I was a disappointment to the family name. My mother stole my inheritance and gave it to her favorite daughter. My mother made it clear that I was not worthy of love or respect. Whatever is happening to her now is not my responsibility. She made her bed. Let her lie in it. I walked to the door and opened it, making my meaning clear. Natalie and Austin left slowly, Natalie still crying, Austin muttering angrily under his breath. Before Natalie reached the door, she turned back one last time. I hope you are happy, she said bitterly. I hope your success was worth losing your family. I did not lose my family, I replied. My family lost me. There is a difference. I closed the door, pressed the button to close the automatic gate, and listened to the mechanical click of the lock engaging. The sound was final, definitive. A door closing on that chapter of my life. I stood there for a moment, expecting to feel something. Triumph, maybe, or vindication. But all I felt was tired. Tired of the drama, tired of the pain, tired of carrying the weight of their expectations and disappointments. Then I walked to my home office, opened my laptop, and got back to work on our newest project. Because my worth was not defined by my family's approval. My success was not diminished by their failure. And my future was not tied to their past. The next few weeks were surprisingly quiet. No more calls from Natalie. No messages from Mother's care facility. No desperate attempts to manipulate me into helping. It was like they had finally accepted that I meant what I said. I heard through the grapevine the same Westport gossip network that had once mocked me that the Lane family estate had been sold at auction. That Natalie and Austin had moved into a rental apartment in a less affluent part of town. That Mother had been moved to a state-run facility. The gossips who had once praised Victoria Lane for her perfect family and her successful daughter now criticized her for driving away the only child who could have saved them. They said she had always been too hard on Harper, too focused on appearances, too blind to see what really mattered. It would have been satisfying to hear their judgments if I had cared enough to listen. But I was too busy building something real to worry about what they thought. 6 months after that final meeting with Natalie, Maya and I were featured on the cover of Fortune magazine. The article called us The Future of Sustainable Technology and detailed our journey from a Brooklyn apartment to a company valued at over $200 million. The day the magazine hit stands, I was in a meeting with potential investors when my phone buzzed with a blocked number. I almost ignored it, but something made me step out and answer. Harper. It was my Aunt Margaret, my mother's sister. I have not spoken to you in years, and I am sorry about that. I should have reached out after what happened at the engagement party. I should have defended you. I was a coward, and I have regretted it ever since. Why are you calling now? I asked, keeping my voice neutral. Your mother passed away last night. The stroke complications. I thought you should know, even though I know you two were not speaking. I felt a strange numbness wash over me. My mother was dead. The woman who had given birth to me, who had raised me for 18 years, who had ultimately rejected me completely. She was gone. Thank you for telling me, I said quietly. I appreciate it. There is a funeral, Margaret continued hesitantly. Day after tomorrow in Westport. I do not expect you to come, but I thought I should mention it. Natalie said she would understand if you did not. I will think about it, I said, though I already knew I would not go. Harper, before you hang up, Margaret said quickly, I want you to know something. Your mother regretted what she did to you. She never admitted it out loud, but I saw it in her eyes in those final months. She asked about you constantly. She would cut out articles about your company and keep them by her bed. She was too proud to reach out, too stubborn to apologize, but she knew she had made a mistake. Did she actually say she was wrong? No, Margaret admitted. She did not. But I could tell. Then it does not matter, I said softly. Regret without apology is just guilt. She had years to make things right. She chose not to. That was her decision, and now she has to live with it. Or not live with it, I suppose. You are right, Margaret said. I just thought you should know anyway. I hung up and stood there in the hallway outside the conference room processing the news. My mother was dead. I waited for the tears to come, for the grief to hit me, for something to break inside. But I felt nothing. Just that same tired emptiness, the same sense of a door that had already been closed. I went back into the meeting, finished the presentation, and closed a $50 million investment deal. That night, I went home to my beautiful house, cooked myself dinner, and watched the sunset through my floor-to-ceiling windows. I did not go to the funeral. I did not send flowers or a card or any acknowledgement. I had said everything I needed to say when I walked out of that engagement party 2 years ago. But a week after the funeral, I received a package in the mail. Inside was a small wooden box carefully wrapped. A note from Aunt Margaret explained that Mother had left instructions for this to be given to me after her death. Inside the box was my father's old watch, the one he used to wear every day until he died. And underneath it, a letter in my mother's handwriting. I almost threw it away without reading it. But curiosity, or maybe some lingering need for closure, made me unfold the pages. Harper, it began, I am writing this because I am a coward who cannot say these words to your face. You were right about everything. I was a terrible mother to you. I let my own fears and insecurities shape the way I treated you, and I drove away the daughter who needed me most. Your father loved you so much. He saw in you a brilliance I was too jealous to appreciate. After he died, looking at you hurt because you reminded me of everything I had lost. So I pushed you away. I poured all my attention into Natalie because she was easier, because she did not challenge me, because she did not make me feel inadequate. When I humiliated you at that engagement party, I knew immediately that I had gone too far. I watched you leave and I knew I had lost you forever. But my pride would not let me chase after you. My stubbornness would not let me apologize. Then I saw what you built. I saw you on magazine covers and news programs. I saw you become exactly what your father always said you would be. And I realized that I had thrown away the chance to be part of that journey. I had sacrificed my relationship with my extraordinary daughter for the approval of people who did not matter. I do not expect your forgiveness. I do not deserve it. I am writing this because you deserve to know that I was wrong. You deserve to hear that I am proud of you, even though I never earned the right to feel that pride. You deserve to know that your father was right about you all along. I am sorry, Harper. I am so deeply, profoundly sorry for everything I did to you. I hope you find happiness and peace because you deserve both. I wish I had been strong enough to be the mother you needed. I wish I had loved you the way you deserve to be loved. But my wishes do not matter anymore. All that matters is that you know the truth. You were never the disappointment. I was. Your mother, Victoria. I read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down my face. Not tears of reconciliation or forgiveness, but tears of grief for what could have been. Grief for the relationship we never had for the mother she could have been for the daughter I had once hoped to be to her. Then I put the letter back in the box with Dad's watch, placed the box on a shelf in my office, and closed that chapter of my life for good. Because the truth was, it was too late for apologies. It was too late for regrets. She had made her choices and I had made mine. Her death did not change the past or erase the pain. It just ended the possibility of anything different. But I kept the watch. Dad's watch. Because some connections are worth preserving, even when others need to be cut away. Today, 5 years after that engagement party, I stand on the rooftop terrace of my home in Darien watching the sun rise over Long Island Sound. GreenPath Technologies is now valued at over $1 billion. We have expanded to 23 countries and helped reduce global food waste by an estimated 2.4 million tons annually. Maya and I built something that matters. We created jobs for hundreds of people. We made a real difference in the world. And we did it without compromising our values or betraying each other. I am not the same person who stood in the rain outside that Westport mansion bleeding and broken. That girl died that night. In her place rose someone stronger, someone who knows her worth is not determined by other people's opinions. I learned that family is not always blood. Sometimes it is the people who show up for you when everyone else walks away. Joe at the diner. Doctor. Carter at the expo. Ethan Ross with his investment. Maya with her loyalty and brilliance. I learned that success is not about proving people wrong. It is about proving yourself right. It is about honoring your own vision and your own values regardless of who believes in you. I learned that letting go of toxic relationships is not cruel or heartless. It is self-preservation. It is choosing to protect your peace and your future instead of sacrificing yourself on the altar of family obligation. And I learned that the best revenge is not revenge at all. It is building a life so full and meaningful that the people who rejected you become irrelevant. It is succeeding not to spite them, but to honor yourself. My mother died with regrets, but I refused to live with them. Every choice I made, from leaving Westport to building GreenPath to closing that door on my family, was the right choice for me. I would not change any of it. Because I am Harper Lane, daughter of James Lane, creator of GreenPath Technologies, and I am enough. I have always been enough. The only person who ever needed to believe that was me. The sunrise is beautiful this morning, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. I hold my coffee cup and Dad's old watch, feeling the weight of both, and I smile. This is what victory looks like. Not the money or the magazine covers or the house with the view. But this moment of peace, this feeling of knowing exactly who I am and being proud of that person. I did not just survive my family's rejection. I thrived because of it. I built something beautiful from the broken pieces they left behind. And that is more than enough. So, I ask you now, watching this sunrise that marks another day of the life I chose for myself, have you ever had to walk away from people who were supposed to love you? Have you ever had to choose yourself over the expectations of others? What does your own sunrise look like, and are you brave enough to chase it? If this story resonated with you, if you have ever felt underestimated or cast aside, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment sharing your own journey of rising from rock bottom. Hit that like button if you believe that our worth is not defined by those who fail to see it. And subscribe, because we all need reminders that we are stronger than we think, braver than we believe, and worthy of the extraordinary lives we build for ourselves. Your story is not over. Your sunrise is waiting. Go chase it.